Good morning and welcome to the channel. In today's exciting episode, we're going to jump back inside, start on the moor vents, maybe some of the vapor barrier, see how far we get with that. Basically just continue on from the insulation where we left off last video. So let's get inside and see what's going on. Where we left off in the last video was I'd done the vapor barrier most of the walls. So I'll start today with installing all the moor vents in between the truss spaces there. And then once those are all installed, I'll be able to do the vapor barrier on the ceiling and do the strapping. Hopefully get it all done today, but we'll see. I always run into something it feels like. Oh, I also have to tape all the seams of the vapor barrier that I've already installed because I do have tuck tape now, so I can go ahead and tape most of them. Let's get going. So these do come in a lot of different varieties of shapes and sizes, for length, for how they're designed. This one in particular gets installed like so against my ceiling, and then these ribs here you see, they can get bent down, and you can see here it says fold staple, so I just fold that and staple it down. So the ribbed part there gets bent down to cover this space, because when we put our vapor barrier on here, we're getting loose fill insulation blown into here, and we don't want all that insulation getting blown into our soffit down in there. So we have to block that off somehow, and they've designed this in particular moor vent just to be able to bend and block that space off. Now the one issue that I will run into right now, I've just noticed, is that the blocking they've installed for their trusses to butt up against is all in the way of making that bend nice and easy. So I'm either gonna have to add a 2x4 here so it's again easier, or I'm gonna have to cut each one out individually and custom fit it, which I might end up doing that instead. We'll see how easy, or maybe I'll see how consistent their blocking is, and then I can just pre-cut a bunch and do it that way. It might be a little easier, but I just staple them on. These ones on this side will have to be doubled up at least, because we have 24 inches of loose fill, and because it's a cathedral ceiling, 24-inch deep insulation brings us to here, so we'll have to double them up like that. I've determined that cutting blocks so it's a even top plate there is the best way to go. They're designed for that not to be cut, so I think it'll be a little faster if I just cut a bunch of blocking, throw a couple screws in it, and then I can just use the pre-bent seam that they have on the moor vent. So let's go. So now I can fasten that flap on the moor vent to a same continuous level. unlike this one where I had to do a little jerry rig. So I'll go ahead and do that to all of them first, get into a rhythm, and come back and do the Morvents. Okay, all the blocking for the Morvents is done, so I'm going to go ahead and probably be able to do all those a little quicker now. My battery's probably going to die soon, so I might not be able to see the rest of this. As exciting as it might be. I'm going to carry on doing this and getting it done. I have limited batteries up here, so I'm going to show you something else a little more interesting maybe later on. Here's a bit of a better way to show you what's happening. So here's our soffit. And you can see how it's vented with all those little holes in it. So air's drawn up through there. Through here, and once this space is insulated against the Morvent here, the air will still be able to get up through those channels into the attic space and vent out on each gable end. Sometimes it's a little tricky to get in there. Now I have to get the camera down. And that does it for this side too. Got all the Morvents on. This side's all done. Again, I doubled up on this side because it is vaulted. I had to get above their blown in insulation that they'll put in. I even tripled up the lengths in the corner here, except a couple extra, just to make it easier on the insulation guys to dump their insulation in, because sometimes it's hard to get back into that corner. So now they don't have to worry about filling up the vents where they're not supposed to. They can know that they won't have any issues there and just fill it up. I'm probably going to jump into taping all the vapor barrier seams now that I have my tuck tape. So all of these seams I'll tape up around the windows and then start on the ceiling. That's it. Another day in the books. I wasn't able to get to the vapor barrier and the strapping on the ceilings. The taping took a little longer than I thought. And I also installed vapor barrier on the peak there and a couple other places, like in this little closet here, that closet. So those little things eat up some time. And regardless, I would have only been able to do the bedroom ceiling and half of this main wall if I were to have started, because the gas guy still needs to get into the ceiling space, and I think there's still a little bit of plumbing to do, so it's just easier to have that open to crawl up into the attic and whatnot in the bathroom. So got all the taping done. Basically anywhere where there was a seam, which is around every door and window and every wall intersection. Oh, I did do the spray foam too. Although I'll have to get more because I ran out. I'll have to do the doors still. That'll do it for this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.